We're here at Bristol Marine today in Bristol, Rhode Island, and I'm standing near a fiberglass NOVI. Now, we're building ORCA, so we've been looking at fiberglass NOVIs and wooden NOVIs everywhere we can, and I don't know where they all are, but I wish I did, because they're all quite similar, and yet they have some differences. You know, ORCA was made from a boat named Warlock. And I could tell by looking at it that it was a NOVI, but it's a little different than, say, this NOVI. This NOVI's got a different shear line. It swoops up aft, and Warlock was very flat in its after sections. You know, the shear line was very flat. I call it a rising shear because it rises from the transom all the way to the stem. This one's got like a belly in the shear like that. So, you know, what I have to get from it really is like the angle of the forefoot, the angle of the keel, the angle of the dead rise, you know, and how it changes from, say, right there to back here. You know, I need to know the angle of the horn timber, all kinds of different things. We've been lucky enough to get some information from the people who originally converted Warlock to ORCA. You know, we know the length of the boat, 40 feet. This one's 36. We know the beam of the boat. We know the width of the transom. We know a few other things, but when I'm done with this one, I'm going to know a lot more. I won't know the offsets exactly. I know that the beam and the transom are going to be very much alike, but she's 4 feet longer than this one. So, you know, like I say, I just need this for my reference, but it's not going to be this shape exactly. ORCA is very similar in a lot of ways. We're looking to get the dead rise of the boat, the shape at a buttock line underneath the boat, which is a little bit different. I'll be showing you that stuff later. And we need every bit of information we can get. We've got quite a bit, but we need more. The first pieces we need to get out of our log would be the keel itself. And this is the forefoot. The forefoot and the keel joined together right about there. Then we need the stem. The stem and the forefoot joined together right about at that poppet stand right there. So we're going to put those three pieces together, and there's going to be what they call a gripe in it, which is a piece that connects the two, the stem and the forefoot, and actually comes out past the rabbit line. So, you know, I'm going to be showing you all of those kinds of things. The other thing we'd like to get together would be the stern post and the horn timber, because we're out to get the whole center line of the boat set up first. All right, the dead rise is about 9 inches and 2 feet. So I'm going to have to steal a bunch of dead rises off the hull, up forward, because it changes as it goes. And it's almost flat back aft, but you saw it had 2 inches of dead rise, or 2 1/4 inches of dead rise at the transom. Nothing like this. This was a foot. So the forward and the rabbit is 3.5 inches up. 3.5 inches from the bottom. The rabbit. Now what I want to do here is just measure from the very bottom of the keel to the rabbit line. Just see how much keel they got sticking out. And I put a tape up there. I get about 3.5 inches. So that's pretty much what I got up forward. I'm going to take a quick measurement and see how tall the keel is. And it's 8 inches, but it's got a rabbit for the planking in it up here. So it's probably 10 inches. You know, I think this is a little bit beefy right here, so the timber could be a tiny bit smaller than that. And the next thing I'm going to do is measure the aperture for the prop shaft. And we've got 27 inches right there. And now I'm going to measure it, see how tall it is. 27 inches. 27. Let's see what it is at the rudder. Right from his fitting here that they've got. Well, let's try from the top. 26, 27, very close. So that just tells me that the timber from the rudder to here is the same parallel as that up there. Doesn't necessarily mean it's level, but it's parallel. So I'm going to take the, see if this is tilting forward, all kinds of different things to trap the lines on this thing. 6 inches. 85 less 6 is 79. Okay, it's got a a beam of 79 inches. Now I want to show you how broad this boat actually is. These Novis were quite wide really, and a little bit narrower at the transom. So I think this boat right here is like 13 foot 6 inches wide, and like I say, it's only 12 feet or so at the transom. So it does draw in at the transom quite a bit. They carry their weight way differently than a down east built boat. And when I say down east, I mean down east in Maine. So, you know, down east they would have a stem that carried way down, and then the curve would be down here, and the keel would be more level than that. So they wouldn't have the beam, but these Novis get tremendous stability from the beam of the boat, much more so than a down east boat. Well, the stem's got a little bit of a rake on it. I'd say it's about 6 inches from the shear to the waterline. So, you know, I can plug that into my drawings as well. We're here at the transom of this Novi, and I just wanted to show you a few other things. I need to get the dead rise, different things like that. That's the angle at the bottom at the transom, a few more forward. Another thing I'm going to need to know is this radius right here. Now, it might turn to a parabolic curve in this area, but this area I can see that it's very much a radius. I don't know what that radius is, so what I'm going to do is put a rule up here, a tape measure, and just haphazardly stick it down there. I got 17 inches here. This is only 16 there. So I want to move it up, and I want to move it over that way. Now that's all just kind of guessing. Now this 17 and a half, 17, I'm going to push it up some more. 17 and a half, 17. Let's push it up some more. 17 and a half, 17 and a half, 17 and a half. Look at that. So from that point right there, it's got a 17 and a half inch radius. So I can use that dimension to draw into it. The other thing I can do is just show you right here, the top sides has what they call Tumblehome. I mean, it's beamier here than it is up there. So I'll have to get the width of the top of the transom. You know, there's just so many things. The other thing I have to do is pick up some buttock lines. Now a buttock line is a line all the way through the hull at 18 inches or whatever you decide it should be. Say if you want it at 2 feet, you have to put a plumb line down and one up forward, then pull a string between those two plumb lines and see what shape the bottom of the boat is at those buttock lines. And you have to take all those dimensions from the ground. So you have to prepare the ground a little tiny bit before you start going at those kinds of things. The next thing I'd have to do is take the waterline shape, the shape of the boat at the waterline in widths, you know, and then I'll probably do another waterline up in here. So it's going to have 2 waterlines. Those are buttock lines. They're planes in the boat a certain distance from the center line. You know, those buttock lines, you can't just look at the boat and pick those up. You need to do quite a bit of measuring to get the hull shape of a boat like this. You know, I've always wanted the lines drawn to a Novi lobster boat, and I've never been able to attain them in any length. You know, as far as I know, the Nova Scotians would build a boat to their liking, you know, and they may have built numbers of boats exactly that way, and then all of a sudden they just want to change for some reason, and they did it. So they come out all different shapes really, but they all have a little bit of a theme. So I'm going to pick up all those lines from different boats and I'm going to wrap them into one, and it's going to be ORCA. Wow, some pretty nice looking stuff around here. Not sawn exactly the way I need it to be sawn, but some beautiful looking stuff. Man, they've been doing some sawing. Wow. We're back at New England Naval Timbers, and I love coming here. And we're after a keel for ORCA. We want it to be clear of the heart, quarter sawn, and just as nice a piece of wood as you could possibly find with very few or no knots in it. Just taking a quick peek at some of these pieces. Yeah, it's a nice piece right there. Oh, look at this curved stuff, man. Wow. And he's taking some slabs off of it. Still got the heart in it, and that curvature really attracts me a lot, because I would use that, cut that into 1-bys and use that to cap the rails on like the 23-footer that I'm building. That's a nice piece of wood right there. It wouldn't be very good for most people with that curve in it. There'd be hardly anything they could do with it, but for me, I want it. And there's a skidder right there. I imagine that'll skid pretty much anything you get onto. Look at those. So you don't slip in the snow. So look at the size of this thing, man. When I look at this log, I'm about 2/3 of the way up. It's got like a little zigzag in it, and a couple of bunches on both sides. So, there's some nice lumber in there, but it's not something I want. Well, this piece right here is not a piece that I'm going to take, but I just wanted to show you a few things about it. This is what they call boxed heart. It means that the heart is in the center of the timber, or as close to the center as they could saw it. So that's boxed heart. But what happens with that is, as the timber seasons, it checks pretty badly. So I don't want any heart in the piece that I'm going to get at all. It would be taken from the heart out like that. And I also don't want the annual rings to be on any kind of angles like this, because it would shrink into a rhombus or swell into a rhombus. It's just not the way to go about it when you're going to build a brand new boat. I want the annual rings to be across the timber like this. And then I can make my choice as to whether or not it's going to be this way, or this way, right? So, that's what we're after. And we've got a log with iron out down here. I'm going to go back down and look and see how long it is. This one, some of these timbers are long enough right here. That one right there, this one would be, but I'm going to take a look at this other one down here. Well, here you go right here. This is a nice looking log so far right here. I don't see any bunches in it from this angle. I'm going to have to look it over kind of careful, but that is a nice looking log right there. Beautiful. Let me pace it off and see how long it is. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, see, that's 30 feet. Man, that thing was slow grown. Very slow. Very slow grown. See, this is the very top of the log here. And once they sort it down, they take these metal plates and drive them in the end so that these checks won't open up any wider. Because the wider they get here, the longer they go down. So that's to try to arrest that checking, and it works. This is a very slow grown timber, and the heart is pretty much in the center. So it doesn't have real narrow annual rings on one side and real wide annual rings on the other side, where one side of the tree would grow quite a bit faster than the other. So it's pretty well symmetrical all the way around. I'm just going to try to estimate what it might be. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 years of growth right there from there out. So let's see, that'd be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. All right, here we go again. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. That's 210, 220, 230, 240, 250, 260. And I might be close to the heart right there at 260. So we're looking at a tree that's been standing in the woods for 250 years to get this size right here. And we just cut them down. Like, that doesn't mean a thing to us. We're just trying to use the lumber. So, like I say, they cut them down and we use them. This is a nice log, as slow grown as it is. That's not the type of lumber that I would use to bend frames in a boat, white oak or not. You know, the slower they're grown, the annual rings would be much lighter, much wider, maybe as wide as 3/8 of an inch or even a 1/2 inch in some cases. And that's the best bending stock there is. This is the best timber stock right here. Now this log was grown much faster than the other log that I looked at. Some of the annual rings in here, you can see right here, I'm just putting a line on that annual ring and a line on this annual ring, and you can see how wide apart they are right in here. And the next one's even wider, like that. This one's even wider. All of these. Like I say, that tree is grown. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It grew that. There's another one. 10 years right there. 10 years, that's how fast that log grew. You know, the other one, so I could estimate that. That's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and this one 60. So this log is 60, 70 years old, and the other log, basically the same size, was over 200 years old. So this tree grew maybe 5 times faster than the other one I was looking at. And like I said, the wider the annual rings, the better it is for bending stock. That's what you need. Look at your big old head. Look at your big head.
You know, when we're looking at timber, she helps me go up the hillside.
Oh, yeah, pulls you right up?
Pulls me right up.
That's cool.
And we can go out to like 45 feet with it, so it's, you know, that's very handy. But we would be nowhere without the Lucas mills to break down the really big logs for resawing.
Oh, you'd be nowhere.
Yeah, you couldn't put one of those big logs on that. It would just crush it.
Yeah. 2 feet.
That's easy to calculate.
Yeah. Now, let me see if I can give you a little sketch of what was on my mind. I mean, you know, I'm not a sawyer, but I've had a little bit of experience in this kind of stuff. So there's the end grain of the log right there.
Yeah.
And say the heart was off to one side, like that. The timber that I want would be right here, like that, you know, and a little away from the heart, like that. Mm-hmm. But if we sawed it all the way through, I'd also have timbers on the other side, right? And then if we sawed it this way, I'd have timber there and one here. And if the heart was in the center, it would even serve that whole thing even better.
Okay.
You know, now you get these triangular pieces. Yeah. It seems to me in the wood miser you could lay that down and cut a 1x off of it, right? Then turn it up, cut a 1x off of it that way, and back down again, and back up again. So all of these will have annual rings that are a little bit diagonal, but I would still call it quartered. Yeah. You know, and I'll use that, and out of all 4 of these, I know one's going to be pretty deficient somewhere along the line, but you know, I'd use that for framing stock, you know, bending stock, or whatever.
Lou, that's all doable.
Yeah.
With the wood miser and with Jimmy. Jimmy's very good at that.
Yes, I knew he could pick up on this real easy. You know, a lot of quarter sawn stuff. I mean, they used to split it out. Yeah. You know, so it would be split like this. You know, every one of them pointed like that. Mm-hmm. You know, and then, you know, to make lumber out of it, you sacrifice quite a bit off of it and get a flat board in it. But I mean, that's we're not going to be doing anything like that. So I think this is the basic idea. Unless you think I'm nuts.
No. That's all doable.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Like this one right here. This is, I think, the biggest side of it. Right. Well, kind of this way. It's kind of in line with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that's going to do, but it's not going to migrate into the log. No. It's just basically it's going to end somewhere. My idea here would be to have a keel sawn out of here, like right in this territory right here. You know, it's like 8 by 8. Yeah. So, you know, I know that by the looks of the log, we're going to have to get fairly close to the heart, but that's okay as long as we're not right into it. Okay. And then I would cut it on each side of the heart, right here and here. Okay. Like that, all the way up. Right? So I got a timber here, and I got timbers over here. Okay. Right? And then I want to cut this way, right in line with the heart, like that. Okay. See, so I got another timber, and another timber over there. Yeah, like that. Right there, and then another one there, and another one over here. And obviously, like I said, this one's going to be deficient because it's, you know, maybe by the time we look at them, we could just saw this side up into 1x or something, you know, or whatever, you know. But
Yeah, and then you know, I'm just collecting my thoughts. Come out the day that you can, and Jimmy will be signed, and you know, we'll work together.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. I don't think it could get any better than that. Well, we found the right log to cut the keel for ORCA out of. And man, I'm excited because we need it to be a really nice timber. And Duke is willing to work with us. It's just great because this timber has to be perfect because it's going to be the keel for ORCA. Well, we're back in the shop and I'm going to start working on my 23-footer again. I can't wait to fiberglass it. I don't know why that's so exciting to me to do a little bit of fiberglass work. I guess it's because I don't do a lot of it, but there was quite a bit of preparation to this. I wanted the glass to come out nice and flat, so the surface had to be nice and flat. You know, and I've puttied all the holes. I've gone around and puttied them again where they didn't quite fill up. And it's surprising how much preparation you have to go through. All the steeple grain in here has to be scraped and sanded because otherwise it'll just show right through the fiberglass. And you know, it's got the corners rounded off a little bit. As you get up in here, you won't have to round them because it's not such an angle. But back here, I'm going to show you this, a little bit of a trick to get the glass to go around the corner and not have a bubble on the side or on the top. Another thing I've done is I've taken a maybe, well, over 1/16 of an inch of material off the side of the plank right here, up about 2 inches. That's so when you glass it down like this, it'll turn in a little tiny bit, and when I put the next plank on, the fiberglass on the outside will be even with the fiberglass, or with the plank, the next plank. So, you know, it was just something that I thought of doing. I didn't want the fiberglass to show on the edge, so I've taken that step to take care of that. Now this is something I wanted to show you. I've got the chine, or the very corner at the chine, rounded right off. But it's still not enough. If I put cloth around that and resined it all out, it would just pop up right here and pop up over here because the fibers are so stiff that when you bend it, it wants to come up. So you got to do something about that. You can't just push it down and keep pushing it down and waiting for it. You'll never get it down flat. So I've come up with this. I tried very hard to get the fibers to stay down nice and tight around this corner and here. But no matter what I did, how many times I troweled it, or no matter what I did, the fibers are just too rigid. They're going in this direction and this direction. So they're so rigid that they don't want to go around that corner, and it makes a bubble here and here. It gets air underneath it, and you can't get it out. You have to apply pressure, and it has to stay there until the resin is kicked off. So this is what I've got. I've got these 2 pieces of wood taped, and once I fiberglass and resin it all out really nice, I just apply that on the surface. And I have different methods of holding it down. This is one method I came up with. And basically it's just a little piece of plywood, and it applies the pressure in the center, because you wouldn't want the pressure over here. The other side could just come up. It has to be in the center of the 2 things like that. And you can screw it right on there with a screw. It works perfect. The screw hole is a little bit large, so I decided what I'm going to do is nail it. And it's going to be glassed around this corner. We're going to put these pieces right over the top, and then we're going to nail it right in the middle with box nails. Box nails are very narrow, they're very small diameter, very small and very slippery. So it does get through here, through the wood and into the chine log just a little tiny bit, and it holds down really nicely. So that's what we're looking forward to. And basically the tape that's on there has to come right around, whether I use packaging tape or it doesn't matter. I can't have it in my way because I'm going to take a knife and trowel this afterwards and just make it come right up to there, just as perfect as can be. And it'll make that glass nice and tight around that corner so there's no bubbles. It'll look great, and that's the way to go right there. And I think you can see on this example that, you know, it really does a nice, neat job. I'm going to show you a couple more things here. You know, I reduced the thickness of this at the edge by a little more than 1/16 of an inch, 2 layers of 1708. And the reason why I did it is so the plank would come up and be even with the fiberglass. You wouldn't see a transition in thickness. I'm going to do it to the transom too. I'm going to nail on a guide and take an electric plane and just tip it a little bit and take maybe 1/16 of an inch out of right here, and it'll taper right out in a couple inches up to there. And that'll make it so that same thing. When I fiberglass this, You know, fiberglass this, it'll come even with that surface right there. Now the corner is another tricky spot because it's going to want to have a bubble all over the place. It's got 3 surfaces coming together. So it's a little bit more complicated than the rest of it, and you wonder how in the world are you going to keep that down there nice and flat and keep the corner looking nice and round like that. Well, the first thing you do is you put a piece of plastic on there. Now this is just a garbage bag, but I'm going to stretch it right on there just like that. And then the pieces of wood are going to go over it. And believe me, when it's dry, you'll take this thing off and the corner will look just as neat as you see it right now. So like I said, the next thing for us to do is fiberglass it. We're going to put 2 layers of 1708 on one side at a time, and it's going to go over the stem and over the keel and around the corners at the chine. This is going to be exciting because it's a little difficult to do, but I think I've come up with all the solutions to all the problems, and we're going to go for it. The next thing we're going to do after that is we're going to go to Connecticut and we're going to saw out the keel, the stem, and the forefoot for ORCA. And we're going to bring that back in the shop and actually start working on it.